For decades, law enforcement across the United States searched for answers in hundreds of unsolved murders. Victims disappeared, bodies were discovered, and cases went cold. The crimes seemed unrelated, spread across different cities, different states, and different years. Few realized they were connected to a single man. That man was Samuel Little. Born in 1940, Samuel Little grew up in a troubled environment and spent much of his life drifting from place to place. By his teenage years, he was already encountering the criminal justice system. Over the decades, he was arrested numerous times for offenses ranging from theft to assault. Yet despite repeated encounters with police, investigators never recognized the full extent of what he had done. Little traveled constantly. He moved through cities across America, often living on the margins of society. He frequented neighborhoods where vulnerable people struggled with addiction, poverty, or homelessness. Many of the women he targeted were among society's most overlooked individuals, people whose disappearances often received little attention. His method was frighteningly simple. Rather than using weapons, Little relied on his physical strength. He would gain the trust of his victims before attacking them, usually by strangulation. Because these murders often left little physical evidence, many deaths were initially classified as accidents, overdoses, or causes that could not be clearly determined. As years passed, the bodies continued to accumulate. Cases remained unsolved. Investigators in one city had no idea they were looking for the same offender being sought elsewhere. The lack of modern forensic technology and communication between jurisdictions allowed Little to continue operating for decades without being identified as a serial killer. In 2012, everything changed. Samuel Little was arrested in Kentucky on unrelated charges. DNA evidence collected during the investigation linked him to multiple murders in California. For the first time, detectives had a breakthrough that connected him directly to killings spanning many years. He was extradited to California, where prosecutors built a case against him. In 2014, Little was convicted of murdering 3 women and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. At first, investigators believed they had finally stopped a killer responsible for a handful of murders. The truth was far worse. While serving his sentence, Little began speaking with investigators from around the country. During lengthy interviews, he confessed not to 3 murders, but to dozens upon dozens of killings stretching back to the 1970s. Many serial killers exaggerate their crimes. Detectives were skeptical. But as Little described victims, locations, and details of crimes that had never been publicly released, investigators realized something chilling. He was telling the truth. Little possessed an extraordinary memory. He could recall clothing, hairstyles, locations, and circumstances from murders committed decades earlier. To aid investigators, he even created drawings of many of his victims from memory. These sketches helped identify previously unknown victims and reopened cold cases that had sat unsolved for years. As confessions were verified, the numbers continued to rise. The scope of his crimes shocked the nation. Eventually, investigators concluded that Samuel Little was responsible for at least 60 confirmed murders. While he himself claimed to have killed 93 women between 1970 and 2005, after years of investigation, the FBI announced that they believed his confession count was credible, making Samuel Little one of the most prolific serial killers in American history. The case also exposed a painful reality. Many victims had been overlooked during their lives, and in some cases, after their deaths. Their disappearances often received limited attention, allowing crucial connections to go unnoticed for decades. Investigators later acknowledged that these circumstances contributed to Little's ability to evade capture for so long. Samuel Little died in prison in 2020 at the age of 80. He would never stand trial for every crime he confessed to committing. Yet even after his death, investigators continue working to identify victims and provide answers to families who waited years, sometimes decades, for the truth. The story of Samuel Little is not only the story of a serial killer. It is also a story about missed connections, forgotten victims, and the importance of never allowing any life to be overlooked. For many families, justice arrived late. For some, it arrived too late. But thanks to years of persistence by investigators, many victims finally had their stories heard. In the early 2000s, fear spread through parts of St. Louis, Missouri, as women began disappearing under mysterious circumstances. Many of the victims came from vulnerable backgrounds, and for a time, their disappearances seemed unrelated. But investigators would soon uncover the work of a serial killer hiding in plain sight. His name was 𝙈𝙖 Travis. Born in 1965, Travis appeared unremarkable to those who knew him. He lived alone in a modest suburban home and kept a relatively low profile. Behind closed doors, however, investigators later discovered a far darker reality. Between 2000 and 2002, numerous women vanished from the St. Louis area. Many were never seen alive again. Families searched for answers, while police worked to connect a growing number of missing persons cases. Then, in May 2002, a local newspaper received a disturbing letter. The writer claimed responsibility for multiple murders and included directions to one of the victims' bodies. The letter shocked investigators, but it also provided their first major breakthrough. Authorities quickly located human remains in the area described by the sender. What happened next would prove crucial to solving the case. Investigators traced digital clues connected to the communication. Those clues eventually led them to 𝙈𝙖 Travis and his residence. Armed with a search warrant, detectives entered the home expecting evidence. What they found exceeded their worst fears. Inside, authorities discovered a collection of videotapes documenting attacks on victims. The recordings provided direct evidence linking Travis to multiple murders. Investigators also found additional evidence connecting him to disappearances throughout the region. The home itself revealed how carefully Travis had concealed his crimes. He had created an environment where victims could be isolated from the outside world, allowing him to operate without attracting attention from neighbors. As evidence mounted, prosecutors prepared their case. Faced with overwhelming proof, Travis eventually admitted responsibility for a series of murders. Authorities linked him to at least a dozen victims, though some investigators believed the true number could have been higher. The discovery devastated families who had spent years wondering what happened to their loved ones. At the same time, it brought long-awaited answers to many cases that might otherwise have remained unsolved. But before the legal process could fully unfold, the story took another turn. In June 2002, while being held in jail awaiting trial, 𝙈𝙖 Travis died by suicide in his cell. His death meant that many questions would never be answered. Families were left without the opportunity to see a full trial, and investigators lost the chance to learn whether additional victims existed. The 𝙈𝙖 Travis case remains a chilling reminder of how dangerous offenders can hide behind ordinary appearances. It also highlights the role that technology played in solving the investigation. A single communication sent to the media ultimately led detectives to the evidence they needed to stop a killer. More than 2 decades later, the case is remembered not only for its disturbing crimes, but also for the determination of investigators who followed every lead until the truth was uncovered. Behind the headlines were real victims, real families, and a community forever changed by the actions of one man.